Hey, I'm alive. We have been streaming daily between the two of us. We have been streaming a lot more frequently, but all free time, and that's gonna end soon, real soon. So, say that, but I want stems. I want stimuli. I hate it, but I want stimuli. That fucking transition. Nice transition. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What did we during the transition? Ah, couldn't handle it. Uh, are we? I see the CPU at like 60. Like it's yeah, but like no. Oh no. I was gonna say, is the shot counter reset? What was a shot that don't last? What? I thought it was more than that. Just when did we last read? No. When? Timestamp. 2 months? I didn't feel like 2 months. Definitely last year. The little cow. I don't know actually. Cow. Like our dicks our back. We're buffering. Or IRL buffering. Because of the mic settings. Because of the mic settings, or because why? It's just the CPU just jumping from 60. Lowest ago is 66, right? And highest jump is 72. It is so bad. Mm-hmm. I'm the novel online and the keyboard. Ow. Ow. I had breakfast. Now we try not trying to read. But it is like our time zone is just like now. It's going down 50 and only not jumping above 60. You're fucking being so mean to me. You're not hearing yourself copy. You don't hear shit. It's so bad. Why do I have one bar? This shit fucking Wi-Fi's gonna kill me, dude. I hear Joji playing. You're playing it out loud, Jay. I'm not here on the stream, but I hear it like right now. I go, oh, Jay. Should we? Jay, should I stop and switch to my phone? Record. No, stream on my fucking phone. Stream off my phone. Let's read along. So it. Then we just have. So reading. Dude, Twitch didn't take this fucking much to stream last time. Wait, why is it being 81? Just CPU. I don't know, dude. It's still being a little fucky. But if you want to just have a read along, not read along, but like we still. Thanks. I'm gonna try to see if I can do stuff. I'm gonna just. Yeah. I can't. What? Why? No, I'm busy. Too bad. Break tomorrow. I'll do my audio track tomorrow. Let's get rid of those. All this. I just want to read. I just want to read. Because I also can't play any music. Because I got rid of Aperia. I love and I hate that I keep pronouncing opera. That's how you fucking say it. As Aperia, because I go fuck, dude. No, it's opera. Opera. Opera GX. Opera. I just say Aperia because I don't give a fuck, dude. Oh my god. How are you? How are you, stream? Still fucking. Okay. I think it's getting better. I don't know. It it's I keep nitpicking it and I keep fucking working on the settings. And I'm just gonna not enjoy it. So, yeah. Egg with toast. It is many. 8 slices of French toast. Let's just read. Let's just copy. Um. No. Like connect to the black wire. Shit, hold on. Here, I just want this better mix. I'm not even bandwidth, to be honest. Oh. What? What? No. I hope. What do you mean? Sad times. Michael Burr. I guess I forgot I was so connected to the speaker. Oh, um, yeah, I think I'm. Chapter 9, Chapter 8. Um, yes, no, maybe? I don't fucking know. Fucking I did. Alright, Jay, ready? Jay, ready? I think you finished last, so it'd be my turn to read. Start up again. We stop every chapter, like we switch off with that. Okay. Um, I'll start reading. I forget what voices I did for them too. Uh, at 5 o'clock, the two ladies retired to dress, and at 6:30, Elizabeth was summoned to dinner. 'Tis a civil inquiries which therein poured in, and amongst which she had the pleasures of distinguishing the much superior solicitude, solitude of Mr. Bingsley's. She could not make a favourable answer. Jane was by no means better. The sisters, on hearing this, repeated 3 or 4 times how much they grieved, how shocking it was to have a bad cold, and how excessively they disliked being ill themselves, and then thought no more of the matter. And their indifference towards Jane were not immediately before them restored Elizabeth to the enjoyment of her original dislike. Their brother, indeed, was the only one of the party whom she could regard with any complacency. His anxiety for Jane was evident, and his attentions to herself was pleasing, and they prevented her feeling herself so much an intruder as she believed she was considered by the others. Can't hear myself think. 'Cause I'm checking the audio as I keep going. It's going okay now, which I'm happy about. I don't know if it's because of me or the whatever. Where did I stop? Uh, she had very little notice from any but him. Miss Bingley was engrossed by Mr. Darcy, her sister, scarcely less so. And as for Mr. Hertz, by whom Elizabeth sat, he was an indolent man, who lived only to eat, drink, and play at cards, who when he found her prefer a plain dish to a rogout, had nothing to say to her. When dinner was over, she returned directly to Jane, and Miss Bingley began abusing her as soon as she was out of the room. Her manners were pronounced to be very bad indeed, a mixture of pride and impertinence. She had no conversation, no style, no taste, no beauty. Mrs. Hertz, though thought the same, and nodded. She has nothing, in short, to recommend her, but being an excellent walker. I shall never forget her appearance this morning. She nearly looked almost wild. She did indeed, Louisa. I could hardly keep my countenance. Very not scheduled to come at all. Why must she be scampering around the country because her sister had a cold, her hair so untidy, so blousy? Yes, and her petticoat. I hope you saw her petticoat. 6 inches deep in the mud. I'm absolutely certain. And the gown which she had let down to hide not doing its office. Your picture may be very exact, Louisa, said Bingley. But this was lost upon me. I thought Miss Elizabeth Bennet looked remarkably well when she came into the room this morning. Her dirty petticoat quite escaped my notice. You observed. Oh, wait. You observed it, Mr. Darcy, I'm sure. And Miss Bingley said missing. Said Miss Bingley. And I'm inclined to think that you would not wish to see your sister make such an exhibition. Certainly not. To walk 3 miles, or 4 miles, or 5 miles, or wherever it is, around above her ankles and alone, quite alone. What could she mean by it? It seems to me that she show an abnormal sort of conceited dependence, a most country town indifference to decorum. It shows an affection for her sister that is very pleasing, said Bingley. I am afraid, Mr. Darcy, observed Miss Bingley in a half whisper, that this adventure has rather affected your admiration of her fine eyes. Not at all, he replied. They were brightened by the exercise. A short pause followed his speech, and Mrs. Hertz began again. I have an excess regard for Miss Jane Bennet. She's a she's really a very sweet girl, and I wish with all my heart she were well settled. But with such a father and mother and such low connections, I'm afraid there is no chance of it. Jeez, more says these fucking gossipers. I mean, same, but um, I think I have heard you say that their uncle's an attorney in Meryton. Yes, and they have another who lives somewhere near Cheapside. Cheapside. That is capital, added her sister, and they both laughed heartily. If that uncle's enough to fill all Cheapside, cried Bingley, it would not make them one jot less agreeable. It must very maternity lessen the chance of marrying men of consideration in the world, replied Darcy. To this speech Bingley made no answer, but his sister gave it their hearty assent, and indulged them mirth for some time at the expense of the dear friend's vulgar relations. There is no woman on woman power in this borough. Yeah, they're bringing each other down. What the fuck? Should I drink to that? Okay, I'll add it to the score. Is my They're not girl bossing at all. That's not very progressive of them. Fucking liberals. They'd probably be very. No, I don't think they would be worth their time. I don't think so. What the fuck? I wish I never opened Discord. No, it's a rooster. Yeah, it's a rooster. It's a rooster in Nike shoes, just sitting on top of it. It has a $100 bill on it. The rooster. It got game. No, it don't. The fuck up, bro. Oh, what? Doing your blinky, bro. I am. I didn't realize. Oh, excuse me. Oh, there it is. No, it's can enter the text. I don't know. Up there, so cat shots taken right there. What? I moved around. What do you mean? No, why would I either? Okay, what am I? Okay, if you. Hmm. Do I can't hear the music. I actually can't. I don't know if it's fine. But, who was I? It was down below. Okay, I found it. You didn't report me a shot. Okay, hold it. I'm stuck. You're stuck with me, stream. Shadow Legend. I hate, I hate beer. Oh, it's like the it's not even a is it? Yeah, but it's like too. It's too better. It's better if it's seltzer. I took my shot stream. All right. With the renewal of tenderness, however, they repaired to her room on leaving the dining parlor and sat with her till summoned coffee. Okay, can you listen to stream? Because I want to make sure the audio. You'll realize what I mean by it's robotic. Sometimes it doesn't do it as often as it does whenever you did it, where I did it in the beginning. But there'll be a few pauses. Right? Yeah, pretty much. The only thing we're probably gonna be able to stream right now is this and not games. Or at least not my like gigabyte games, just my little like MB3 like megabytes. Yeah, Spooky's Mansion or like the One Arm Chef or like any of the others. Yeah, nothing too strenuous because this GPU's fucking the CPU's fucking dude. I gotta get a new driver. Anyway, um, the coffee. She was still very poorly, and Elizabeth would not quit her at all, till late in the evening when she had the comfort of seeing her asleep, and when it appeared to her rather right than pleasant that she should go downstairs herself, or entering the drawing room she found the whole party at loo, and was immediately invited to join them, but expected them to be playing high. She declined it, and making her sister the excuse, she said she would amuse herself for the short time she would stay below the book. Mr. Hertz looked at her with astonishment. You prefer reading to cards, said he. That's rather singular. Miss Eliza Bennet, said Miss B. Despises cards. She is a great reader, has no pleasure in anything else. And as if neither such praise nor such censure, cried Elizabeth. I am not a great reader, and I have a pleasure in many things. I'm nursing my sister, I'm sure you have pleasure, said Bingley. In nursing your sister, I'm sure you have pleasure, said Bingley, and I hope it will soon be increased by seeing her quite well. Elizabeth thanked him from her heart, and then walked towards the table where a few books were lying. He immediately offered to fetch her others, all that his library afforded, and I wish my collection were larger for your benefit and my own credit. For I am an idle fellow, and though I have not many, I have more than I have looked into. Elizabeth assured him that she would suit herself perfectly with those in the room. I'm astonished, said Miss Bingley, that my father should have left so small a collection of books. What a delightful library you have at Pemberley, Mr. Darcy. It ought to be good, he replied. It's been a work of many generations. And then you added so much to yourself that you're also buying books. I cannot comprehend the neglect of a family library in such days. Neglect! I am sure you neglect nothing that could be added to the beauties of that noble place. Charles, when you build your home, I wish it may be half as delightful as Pemberley. I wish it may. Alright? Like, what the fuck? Y'all know what it's like. What the fuck? Like, that's their brother. That's their brother and sister. Um, but I would really advise you to make your purchase in that neighborhood and take Pemberley for a kind of model. There is not a finer country in England than Yorkshire. With all my heart, I will buy Pemberley itself if Darcy will sell it. I am talking of possibilities, Charles. Upon my word, Caroline, I should think it more possible to get Pemberley to purchase than by imitation. Elizabeth was so much caught up by what passed as to leave her very little attention for her books and soon laying it wholly aside. She drew near the card table and stationed herself between Mr. Bingley and his eldest sister to observe the game. Is Mr. Darcy much grown since the spring? Said Miss Bingley. Will be as tall as I am? I think she will. Miss Darcy. Oh, I've my head. I think she will. She's now about Elizabeth Bennet's height, or rather taller. How I long to see her again. I never met with anybody who delighted me so much. Such a countenance, such manners, and so extremely accomplished for her age. Her performance on the pianoforte is exquisite. It is amazing to me how young ladies can have patience to be so very accomplished as they all are. All young ladies accomplished, my dear Charles. What do you mean? Yes, all of them, I think. They all paint tables, cover screens, and net purses. I scarcely know anyone who cannot do all this. I'm sure I have never heard a young lady spoken for the first time without being informed that she was very accomplished. Your list of common extent of Your list of the common extent of accomplishments, said Darcy, has too much truth. The words apply to many a woman who deserves it in no other and in who deserves it no otherwise. I can't fucking read. I'm a dummy. I'm a dummy. I'm a dummy, bro. What am I doing here reading this? What am I? I don't read. The many books in my library that I stole. The word is applied to marry a woman who deserves it no otherwise than by netting a purse or covering a screen. But I am far more agreeing with you in your estimate of ladies in general. I cannot boast of knowing more than half a dozen, a whole range of my that are really accomplished. Nor I am sure, said that, observed Elizabeth. You must comprehend a great deal in your idea of accomplishment. Yes, I do comprehend it. Oh, certainly, cried his faithful assistant. No one can really esteem accomplishment who doesn't greatly surpass what is usually met with. A woman must have a thorough knowledge of music, singing, drawing, dancing, and the modern languages to deserve the word. And besides all this, she must possess a certain something in her air and in her air and manner of walking, the tone of her voice, her address and expressions, or the word will be but half deserved. All of this she must possess, added Darcy, and to all of this she must add something more sustainable in the improvement of her mind by extensive reading. I'm not really surprised at your knowing only six accomplished women. I'd rather wonder now at your knowing any. Are you so severe upon your own sex as to doubt the possibility of others? I never saw such a woman. I never saw such capacity and taste and application and elegance as you describe and united. Mrs. Hurst and Miss Bingley both cried out against the I doubt, and were both protested that they knew many women who answered this description, and Mr. Hertz called them to order with bitter complaints of their inattention to what was going forward. As all conversations was thereby at an end, Elizabeth soon afterwards left the room. Eliza Bennet, said Miss Bingley, when the door was closed on her, is one of them. What's one of those young ladies who seek to recommend themselves to the other sex by undervaluing their own, and with many men, I dare say, it succeeds. But in my opinion, it is a paltry device and very mean art. Undoubtedly, replied Darcy, to whom this remark was chief. There is meanness in all the arts which ladies sometimes can descend out to employ the captivity, whatever bears affinity to cunning is susceptible. What the fuck? That's still a trend for either. I don't say sex. I mean gender. Like any gender. Like, dude, it's a weird thing to see that and go, oh yeah, no, like 100 years later, that's still relevant. People still put themselves down or like lie about how interesting or how like it's weird, or not lie, but like it's an omission of lies. It's like trying to stay engaged in a conversation that you have no business, but um, pretend to enjoy it instead of just actually wanting to learn about the subject. Like You got it? Raise a crest? The score or not the? Yeah, okay. You gotta go. I need to. I'm playing Star Wars in the background as I'm like fact checking the thing, and they all need to be star level 7 and above 15,000. Moop, you're going. Yeah. No one stream isn't hearing you. I'm hearing you. Yeah. So read slower. Reading as it is, because I'm reading fast. I didn't realize I was reading fast. I'm just reading as it is, but I'm also making a lot of mistakes when I'm going slow. Okay, let me. Miss Bingley was not yet thus entirely satisfied with this reply as to continue the subject. Elizabeth joined them again, only to say that her sister was worse and that she could not leave her. Bingley urged Mr. Jones being sent for immediately, while his sisters, convinced that no country advice could be of any service, recommended and expressed to town for one of their most eminent physicians. This she would not hear of, but she was not so unwilling to comply with their brother's proposal, and it was settled that Mr. Jones would be sent for early in the morning, if Miss Bennet were not decidedly better. Bingley was quite uncomfortable. His sisters declared that they were miserable. They solaced their wretchedness, however, by duets, duets, by duets after supper. While he could not find better relief to his feelings than by giving his housekeeper directions that could possibly attend be paid to the sick lady and her sister. Chapter 9. Your new day. And I'll listen to audio. It'll be okay probably if I don't do anything, but I still want um music in the background, but it's not picking up on stream. I don't think so either. I don't know what is the issue, or if it's just. I'll figure it out later. The switch has been made. Like, ironically, 4 pages of like, well, that's a tiny page. That's a tiny page. I'm so used to reading more in a singular page. That's one page. Ooh. Anyway, I have in my head a little sound snippet from fucking New Dawn, New Horizon. Elizabeth. Elizabeth, and I'm like, Elizabeth, please. Fuck. Elizabeth passed the 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 chef of the night. Wait, chef? Yeah, chef of the night in her sister's room, and in the morning had the pleasure of being able to send a tolerable answer to the inquirers with inquiries inquiries, which she very early received from Mr. Bingley by a housemaid, and some time afterwards from the two elegant ladies who waited on his sisters. In spite of this amendment, however, she requested to have a note sent to Longbourn, desiring her mother to visit. Ooh, fuck. To visit Jane and form her own judgment of her situation. The note of immediate it was immediately dispatched, and its contents are quickly compiled with. Miss Bennet, accompanied by her two youngest girls, reached Netherfield soon after the family breakfast. Had she found Jane in any apparent danger, Miss Bennet would have been very miserable. But being satisfied on seeing her that her illness was not alarming, she had no wish for her recovering immediately, as her restoration to health would immediately remove her from Netherfield. She would not listen, therefore, to her daughter's proposal of being carried home. Neither did Neither did the neither did the ap- apple carry apple. Ooh, big words for my little tiny little brain. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm spaced out. You got big ass paragraphs. Who arrived about the same time. Think it at all advisable. After sitting a little while with Jane on Miss Bingley's appearance, I have to fucking remember to distinguish Mrs., and then and then Miss. Fucking hate that. Miss Bingley's because they're like one of them doesn't have an S at the end. Fucking hate that. Appearance and invitation. The mother fucking hate that. What? Appearance and the invitation. The mother and the mother and three daughters all fuck. I hate this fucking grammar. No. all all attended all attended her into the breakfast parlor. Yay! I finished the sentence after that atrocious fucking Bingley met them with hopes that Mrs. Bingley had not found Miss Bennet worse than she expected. Indeed, I have, sir, was her answer. She is a great deal too ill to be moved. Mr. Jones said we must not think of moving her. We must trespass a little longer on your kindness. Removed! cried Bingley. It must not be thought of. My sister, I am sure, will not hear of her removal. You may depend on it, madam, said Miss Bingley with cold civility, that Miss Bennet shall receive every possible attention while she remains with us. Mrs. Bennet was profuse in her acknowledgments. I am sure she was profuse, 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 profuse in her acknowledgments. Yes, I am sure, she added, if it was not for such good friends, I do not know what would become of her. Well, she is very ill and suffers a vast deal, though with the greatest patience in the world, which is always the way with her, for she has, without expe- ex- no exception, the sweetest temper I've ever met with. I often tell my girls they are nothing like her. You have a sweet room here, Okay, that's all continuous. You have a sweet room here, Mr. Bingley, and a charming prospect over the gravel walk. I do not know a place in the country that is equal to Netherfield. You will not think of quitting it in a hurry, I hope, though you have but a short lease. What? Why does she know his fucking what? What is this shit? I hate this. Whatever I do is done in a hurry, replied he, and therefore, if I should resolve to quit Netherfield, I should probably be off probably off in 5 minutes. At present, however, I consider myself as quite fixed here. That's exactly what I should have supposed of you, said Elizabeth. I fucking hate grammar and the like. Uh, you've begun to comprehend me, do you? Cried he, turning towards her. Oh yes, I understand you perfectly. I wish I might take this for a compliment, but to be so easily seen through, I'm afraid is pitiful. That it that is as it happens. It does not necessarily follow that a deep, intricate character is more or less estimated than such as one as yours. Lizzie, cried her mother, remember where you are, and do not run on in the wild manner that you are suffered to do at home. I do not know before, said Bingley immediately, that you were sturdy of character. It must be an amusing study. Yes, but intricate characters are the most amusing. They have at least that advantage. The country, said Darcy. can in general supply but few subjects for such a study. In a country neighborhood, you move in a very confound and unwavering society. Unvarying, no, unvarying, unvarying. I'm looking at you to verify the English words, but you're not looking back at me. Right here. It's not wavering, but it's unvarying society. Like man. But people themselves alter so much that there is something new to be observed in them forever. Forever. Ugh, separated. Yes, indeed, cried Mrs. Bennet, off- off- offended by his manner of mentioning a country neighborhood. I assure you, there's quite as much of that going on in the country as in town. Everybody was surprised, and Darcy, after looking at her, suddenly turned away. Mrs. Bennet, who fancied she'd gained a complete victory over him, continued her triumph. I cannot say that London has any greater advantage over the country for my part, except the shops and public spaces. The country is a vast deal just pleasanter, is it not, Mr. Bingley? When I am in the country, he replied, I never wish to leave it, and when I am in town, it is pretty much the same. They have their advantages, and I can be equally happy in either. Aye, that is because you have the right disposition. But that gentleman, looking at Darcy, seemed to think that the country was nothing at all. Indeed, mamma, you are mistaken," said Elizabeth, blushing for her mother. "You quite mistook Mr. Darcy. He only meant that there were not such a variety of people to meet in the country as in town." What? What? What you must? What you must acknowledge to be true. You're a fucking asshole. You're a fucking asshole. Stop looking at me stop looking at me like you're my sound director, just going, "Hey yo yo yo, what happened to that mic check?" Certainly, my dear. Nobody said they were, but as to not meeting with many people in this neighborhood, I believe. Oh no, but there was a fucking like uh country's boring as shit. There ain't nobody interesting here. Darcy. I don't ever dream that. Add that to the count. We're not adding that to the count. Darcy saying, "Oh, you're more interesting now that you've like unrevealed yourself to me." Yeah. You fucking said, "Oh, if I knew in the beginning that you were like if you were gonna be like this, I would have uh fucking I would have met you or I would have been like uh more taken, yeah, interested." And then her mother was just like, "Oh, but everyone's like that here. Don't you?" And she was like offended that he mentioned like the surrounding areas. Yeah. Hold it. You poor little stubby hands. Hello, it's me. Back to like the original creator of this fucking stream. Very nice. It's like fine. Strawberry one. Very aromatic. Very aromatic. Very nice. Very concentration. Where the fuck am I? Oh yeah. What the fuck am I? Oh, clearly, my dear. I just started. I'm waiting for you. I can go. Okay. Clearly, my dear. Nobody said they were they. there were. But as to not meeting with many people in this neighborhood, I believe there are few neighborhoods larger. I know we time with 4 and 12 families. Nothing but concern enabled Bingley to set his countenance. His sister was less delicate and directed her eyes towards Mrs. Darcy with a very expressive smile. Elizabeth, for the sake, mm, how dare you? I am trying to read. Ruining my. Yeah. Can I go now? Hello, stream. Go now. Apparently, read about it. Anyway, don't mind me. Where am I? Fuck am I? Elizabeth, for the sake of saying something that might turn her mother's thoughts, now asked her if Charlotte Lucas had been at Longbourn. Longbourn? Born? Longbourn? Bjorn. Which one? Oh, fucking no. I can't. I get it's a different site. Here. Longbourn. Bjorn. Born. Longbourn? Longbourn since her coming away. Yes, she had called yesterday with her father. Had what an agreeable man Sir William is, Mr. Bingley, is he not? So much the man of fashion, so gently and so easy. He has always said something to everybody. That is my idea of good breeding, motherfucker. And those persons who fancy themselves very important and never open their mouths quite mistake the matter. And mother, I did not like you fucking much. Leave me alone. Yeah, your ship was choppy too, but it wasn't just like it wasn't me. I'd be like, hey, calm down. You spoke too fast for it to like probably be choppy. Anyway, I'm continuing. The, where the fuck am I? Did the Charlotte dine with you? No, she would go home. I fancied she wanted a she wanted I fancied she was wanted about the mince pies for my part, Mr. Bingley. I always kept servants that can do their own work. My daughters are brought up differently, but everybody is to judge for themselves. We built different. Woo, woo, different breed. Give me. Are brought up differently, but everybody's to judge for themselves. And the Lucases are very good sort of girls, I assure you. It is a pity they are not handsome. Not that I think Charlotte is so very plain. She is our particular friend. She seems a very lovely young woman, said Bingley. Oh, yes, dear. But you must own she is very plain. Lady Lucas herself has often said so, and envied me Jane's beauty. I do not like to boast my own child, but to be sure, Jane, one does not often see anybody better looking. It is what everybody says. I do not trust my own partially. When she was only 15, there was a gentleman at my brother's gardeners in town, so much in love with her that my sister-in-law was sure he would make her an offer before we came away. But however, he did not. Perhaps he thought her too young. However, he wrote some verses on her, and very pretty they were, and so ended his affection, said Elizabeth impatiently. There has been many a one, I fancy, overcome in the same way. I wonder who first discovered the effic- eff- effic- efficacy efficacy of poetry in driving away love. Efficacy. Efficacy? Efficacy of poetry in driving away love. I have used to consider poetry as the food of love, said Darcy. Of a fine snout, healthy love it may. Everything nourishes what is strong already. But if it only be a slight thin sort of inclination, I am convinced that one good sonnet will drive it entirely away. On that end, Darcy only smiled with the general pause which ensued made Elizabeth tremble, lest her mother should be exposing herself again. She longed to speak, but could think of nothing to say. And after a short silence, Mrs. Bennet began repeating her thanks to Mr. Bingley for his kindness to Jane, with an apology for troubling him also with Lizzie. Mr. Bingley was unaffected civil in his answer, and forced his younger sister to be civil also, and said the obligation required she performed her part indeed without much graciousness, but Mrs. Bennet was satisfied, and soon afterwards ordered her carriage. Upon this signal, the youngest of her daughters put herself forward. The two girls had begun had been whispering to each other during the whole visit, and the result of it was that the youngest should tax Mr. Bingley with having promised of his first coming into the country to give a ball at Netherfield. Lydia was a stout, well-grown girl of 15, with a fine complexion and good-humoured countenance, a favourite with her mother, whose affection had brought her into public at an early age. She had high animal spirits and a sort of natural self-consequence, which the attentions of the officers to whom her uncle's good dinners and her own easy manners recommended her, and increased into assurance. He was very equal, therefore, to address Mr. Bingley on the subject of the ball and abruptly remind him of the promise, adding that it would be the most shameful thing in the world if he not keep it. His answer to this attack was delightful to their mother's ear. I am perfectly ready, I assure you, to keep my engagement, and when your sister is recovered, you shall, if you please, in the very day of the ball, if you wish not to be danced while she is ill. Lydia declared herself satisfied. Oh, yes. It would be much better to wait till Jane was well, but that that time most likely Captain Carter would be at Meryton again. And when you are given your ball, she added, I shall insist of their giving one also. I should tell Colonel Foster it would be quite a shame if he does not. Miss Bennet and her daughters then departed, and Elizabeth returned instantly to Jane, leaving her own relation amongst the two Darcy, the latter of whom, however, could not be failed on the censure fucking of her, in spite of Mrs. Bingley's witticisms on fine eyes. Fucking chapter 10 is long. Chapter 10. Most of them was cut out. Yeah, chapter 10 is long. I saw. How the fuck are we gonna finish this, dude? Um. Okay, chapter 10. The day passed much as the day before had done. Mrs. Hurst and Miss Bingley had spent the morning with the invalid, who continued though slowly to mend. And in the evening, Elizabeth joined the party in the drawing room. The loo table, however. Mr. Darcy was writing, and Miss Bingley, seated near him, was watching the progress of his repeatedly called off his attention by messages to his sister. Mr. Hurst and Mr. Bingley were at a picket, and Mrs. Hurst was observing their game. Elizabeth took up some needlework and was sufficiently amused at attending to what passed between Darcy and his companion. The perpetual commendations of the lady, either of his handwriting or on the evenness of his lines, or on the length of his letters, with the perfect unconcern with which her praises were received, form a curious dialogue, and was exactly in unison with her opinion of each. How delighted Miss Darcy would be to receive such a letter! Made no answer. You write uncommonly fast. You are mistaken. I write rather slowly. How many letters you must have occasion to write in the course of a year? A letter of business is due. How audacious! I should think them. How odious! Audacious? Odious? I should think them. It is fortunate, then, that they fall to my lot instead of to yours. I tell you, Sister Dialogue. Every elder so once by your desire. I'm afraid you do not like your pen. Let me mend it for you. I mend pens remarkably well. Thank you, but I always mend my own. Contrive to write so even. He was silent. There, says, I'm delighted to hear of her improvement on the harp, and pray let her know that I am quite enraptured with her beautiful little sound for a table, and I think infinitely superior to Miss Grantley's. Will you give me leave to defer your raptures if till I write again? At present I have not much room to do them justice. Oh, it is of no consequence. I shall see her in January. But do you also write such charming letters, long letters to Mr. Darcy? To her, Mr. Darcy? They're generally long, but whether always charmed is it for me to determine. It is a rule with me that a person who can write a long letter with ease cannot write ill. That will not do for compliment to Darcy, Caroline, cried her brother. Because he does not write with ease. He studies too much for words of 4 syllables. Don't you, Darcy? My style of writing is very different from yours. Oh, cried Miss Bingley. Charles writes in the most careless way imaginable. He leaves out half his words and blots the rest. My ideas flow so rapidly that I have no time to express them, by which means my letter sometimes convey no idea at all to your correspondence. Your humility, Mr. Bingley, said Elizabeth, must disarm reproof. Nothing is more deceitful, said Darcy, than the appearance of humility, and is often only carelessness of opinion, and sometimes an indirect boost. Which of the two do you call my little recent piece of modesty? The indirect boast, for you're really proud of your defects in writing, because you consider them as proceedingly from a rapid of thought and carelessness of execution, which, if not estimable, you think at least highly interesting. The power of doing anything with quickness is always much prized by the processor, and often without any attention to the imperfection of the performance. When you write when you told Miss Bennet this morning that if you ever resolved on quitting Netherfield, you should be gone in 5 minutes, you must have sort of pangranic of compliment to you. And yet, what is there so laudable in the precedents which must leave very necessary business undone and can be of no real advantage to yourself or anyone else? Nay, cried Bingley, this is too much. To remember all night all that foolishness things that was said in the morning, and yet upon my honor, I believed what I said to myself to be true, and I believe it at this moment. At least, therefore, I do not assume the character of needless precipitance merely to show off before the lady. I dare say you believed it, but I by no means convinced that you were gone by with such celerity. Celerity. Your conduct would be quite as dependent on chance as that of any man I know. And if, as you were mounted by your horse, a friend would say, Bingley, you had better stay till next week, you would probably do it. You would probably not go, and at another word, might stay a month. You have only proved by this, cried Elizabeth, that Mr. Bingley did not do justice to his own disposition. You have shown him off how. You have shown him off now much more than he did himself. I am extremely gratified, said Bingley, by your confection of what my friend says into a compliment of the sweetness of my temper, but I am not afraid you are giving it a turn which that gentleman did by no means intend, for he would intend, for he would certainly think the better of me. Under such circumstances, I were to give a flat denial and ride off as fast as I could. Mr. Darcy, then consider the rashness of your original intent as it atoned by your absence in adhering to it. Upon my word, I cannot exactly explain the matter. Darcy must speak for himself. I expect I expect me to account for opinions which you choose to call mine, which I have never acknowledged. Allowing the case, however, to stand according to your representation, you must remember, Miss Bennet, the friend who is supposed to desire his return to the house, in the delay of his plans, has merely desired it, I say without offering one argument in favor of his property. To yield readily, easily to the persuasion of a friend is no merit with you. To yield without conviction is no compliment to the understanding of either. You appear to me, Miss, to allow nothing but the influence of friendship and affection. A regard for your requester would often make one readily yield to a request, without waiting for arguments to reason one into it another. One into it. I'm not particularly speaking of such a case as you have supposed about Mr. Bingley. You may as well wait, perhaps, till the circumstances occur before we discuss the discretion of your behavior thereupon. But in general, in ordinary cases between friend and friend, where one of them desired by the other to change a resolution of no very great moment, should you think ill of that person for complying with the desire without waiting to be argued into it? Would not be advisable before proceeding on the subject to range with rather more precision the degree of importance which is apparent to this request, as well as the degree of intimacy or substance between the parties? By all means, cried Bingley. Let us hear the particulars, not forgetting their comparative height and size, for that will have more weight in the argument. Miss Bennet, there you may be aware of, I assure you, that if Darcy were not such a great tall fellow in comparison with myself, I should not pay him half so much difference. I declare I do not know more awful object than Darcy on particular occasions, and in particular places at his own house especially, and of a Sunday evening when he has nothing to do. Mr. Darcy smiled, but Elizabeth thought she could perceive that he was rather offended, and therefore checked her laugh. Miss Bingley warmly resented the indignity he had received in an ex, expostu, expostulation with her brother for talking such nonsense. I see your design, Bingley, said his friend. You disagree in an argument and want to silence this. Perhaps I do. Arguments are too much like disputes, and if you and Miss Bennet will defer yours till I am out of the room, I shall be very thankful. And then you may say whatever you like of me. Will you ask? Said Elizabeth. Is no sacrifice on my side. Oh, I'm sorry. Beloved microphone. No, I was like really close to it though. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Um, where am I? No, by all means. Mr. Darcy took her advice and did finish it. When that business was over, and he applied to Miss Bingley and Elizabeth for the donors of some music, Miss Bingley moved with alacrity to the pianoforte, and a polite request that Elizabeth would lead the way, which the other was as politely and more earnestly and negatively she seated herself. Mrs. Hurst sung with her sister, and while they were thus employed, Elizabeth should not help observing, as she turned over some music books that lay on the instrument, how frequently Miss Darcy's eyes were fixed on her. She hardly knew how to suppose that she could be an object of admiration to so great a man, and yet that she would look at her because he disliked her was still more strange. She could only imagine, however, at last that she drew his notice because there was a something about her wrong and re- reprehensible, according to his ideas of right, than in any other person present. This stipulation did not pain her. Supposition did not pain her. She liked him too little to care for his approbation. After playing some Italian songs, Miss Bingley varied the claim by a lively Scottish air. Soon afterwards, Miss Darcy, drawing near, Elizabeth said to her, "Not feel a great inclination, Miss Bennet, to see such an opportunity of dancing real. She smiled but made no answer. He repeated the question with some surprise. Silence. Oh, he said. I heard you before, but I couldn't immediately determine what to reply. You wanted me, I know, to say yes, that you might have the displeasure of despising my taste. I always delight in overthrowing those kinds of schemes and cheating a person of their premeditated concept. I have, therefore, made up my mind to tell you that I do not want to dance a reel at all, and now despise me if you dare. Indeed, I do not dare. Elizabeth, having rather expected to affront him, was amazed by his gallantry, but there was a mixture of sweetness and archness in her manner which made it difficult for her to affront anybody. And Darcy had not been so bewitched by any woman as he was by her. He really believed that were it not for the inferiority of her connection, he would be in some danger. Wow. I don't like your social status. Knocked down a peg. Like, he really said that. Oh, not said, but he thought that. Like, he really. Fucking. What an asshole. They can't. He's just an asshole. Um, so I got coffee. Miss Bingley saw or suspected enough to be jealous, and her great anxiety for the recovery of her dear friend Jane received some assistance from her desire of getting rid of Elizabeth. She often tried to provoke Darcy into disliking her guest by talking of their supposed marriage and planning his happiness in such an alliance. I hope, said she, as they were walking together into the shrubbery the next day, you will give your mother-in-law a few hints when this desirable event takes place as to the advantage of holding her tongue. And if you could compress here the young girls after the mention so delightful subject, endeavor to check the little something bordering a conceit and impertinence possesses. Have you anything else to propose for my domestic felicity? Oh, yes. You let the portraits of your uncle Aunt Phillips be placed in the gallery at Pemberley. Put them next to your great uncle, the judge. They are in the same profession, only in different lines. As for Elizabeth's picture, you must not attempt to have it taken. What printer could do justice to those beautiful eyes? It would not be easy, indeed, to catch their expression, but their color and shape and the eyelashes, so remarkably fine, might be copied. At the moment, they were met from another walk by Mrs. Hertz and Elizabeth herself. I did not know they intended to walk, said Miss Bingley, in some confusion, lest they have been overheard. You used us abominably ill, answered Mrs. Hertz, running away without telling us that you were coming out. They talked to disengaged arm of Mr. Darcy. She left Elizabeth to walk by herself. The passenger submitted three. Mr. Darcy felt their rudeness and immediately said, "This walk is not wide enough for our party. You had better go. We had better go to the avenue." But Elizabeth, who had not the least inclination to remain with him, laughed and answered, "No, no. There you are. You are charmingly grouped, and appeared to the uncommon advantage. The picturesque would be spoilt by admitting a fourth. Goodbye." She then ran gaily off, rejoicing as she rambled about in the hope of being at home again in a day or two. Jane was already so much recovered as to intend leaving her room for a couple hours that evening. So, okay, hold up. Jay? After 11. Um, fucking excuse me? What do you mean they're already supposed to be, like, engaged? Like, that was not mentioned whatsoever at all. Like, what? What? That makes no sense. What to me? Absolutely none. Like I don't want. Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have some more French toast. I'll put it at that. I put in the microwave. The microwave. The microphone every time I'm calling out for Jay because I'm loud. I don't mean to be, but I'm loud. How it is. I also gotta finish all that French toast, bro. All that French toast. We don't have any pizza left. We don't have any pie left. We don't have any rice or curry left. Or fucking. We have ramen left. I have French toast. I want to eat something. I need food. I need a different food. Maybe rice. Maybe yellow rice. I don't really want ham. I have corn. We have corn. I have a very important question for me. Very important. I don't know if I got corn. Where corn? I got green beans. I got green beans. Oh, corn. I do got corn. Okay, yeah, I'll make arroz. Arroz. Do it delightful. It's like the one fucking thing I want. But I like, but I don't. But I hate. Okay, rice to me is like the Mexican yellow rice. It's just arroz. You know, it's just rice. But then there's white rice and there's sushi rice and there's the jasmine rice and it's like, oh, dude, I don't. There's some. It's so weird having a different culture to grow up with and then go look at everybody else and go, oh, you are weird. Stop to call just right. Okay, chapter 11. And also, you want to do? I want to do a couple more chapters and then we'll go hang out with your best friend. Also, I want rice. Arroz. I want rice. I was just like thinking, cause dude, it's so weird to say rice, and I'm not thinking white rice. I'm thinking arroz. Like I have to differentiate between them. I love knowing a lot of cultures and love knowing. I don't say gohan for like white rice either, but it's because I know it's different rices. Different rice. I want jasmine and I want sushi rice. I want so much. It's chapter 11. It's your turn. I know my pages. When the lady was removed after dinner, Elizabeth ran up to her sister and, seeing her well guarded from cold, attended her into the drawing room, where she was welcomed by her two best motherfucker. I am reading, and you're grabbing something out of the fridge, Chris. You want a roast? You want a roast? Yeah, throw it away. They smell like. I forgot about that. They dried out. Okay. Where she was welcomed by her two friends with many professions of pleasure. And Elizabeth had never seen them so agreeable as they were during the hour which passed but the gentleman appeared. Their powers of conversation were considerable. They could describe an environment with accuracy, relate an anecdote with humor, and laugh at their acquaintance with spirit. But when the Enderman dinner Jane was no longer the first subject, Miss Bingley's eyes were instantly turned towards Darcy, and she had something to say to him. Before he had advanced many steps, he addressed himself directly to Miss Bennet with a polite conversation. Mr. Hurst also made her a slight bow and said he was very glad, but this use the diffuseness and warmth remained for Dingling's salutation. It was full of joy and attention. The first hour spent in piling up the fire, least she should suffer from the change of room, and she removed at his desire to the other side of the fireplace, that she might be farther from the door. He then sat down by her and talked scarcely to anyone else. Elizabeth, at work in the opposite corner, saw it a great delight. When tea was over, Mr. Hurt reminded his sister-in-law of the card on the table, but in vain. She had obtained private intelligence that Mr. Darcy did not wish for cards, and Mr. Hertz soon found even his open petition rejected. She assured him that no one intended to play, and the silence of the whole party on the subject seemed to justify her. Mr. Hertz had therefore nothing to do but to stretch himself on one of the sofas and go to sleep. Darcy took up a book, and Miss Bingley did the same, and Mrs. Hertz principally occupied in playing with her bracelets and rings, joined now and then in her brother's conversation with Miss Bennet. Miss Bingley's attention was quite as much engaging in watching Mr. Darcy's progress through his book as in reading her own. She was particularly either making some inquiry or looking at his page. She could not win him, however, to any conversation. He merely answered a question and read on. At length, quite exhausted by the attempt to be amused with her own book she had chosen because it was the second volume of his, she gave a great yawn and said, "How pleasant it is to spend an evening in this way! I declare, after all, there is no enjoyment like reading. How much sooner one tires of of anything than of a book. When I have a house of my own, I shall be miserable if I have not an excellent library." This bitch took up a book and went, "You reading, huh?" Fucking, I don't know. No one made a reply. That's not. Go up, go up. Stop, stop, stop. Card on the table. Mrs. Bingley's attention was engaged in watching Mr. Darcy. Yes, yes, yes. Somewhere in that sentence. Yeah. No one made a. She faked a yawn and said, "These books are great." Fucking Miss Bennet, I guess, or Mrs. Bingley. I forgot which bitch did it. Think- Oof. Oof. When the fuck was I on the table? When was that on the table? Damn. What the fuck, dude? Anyway. Elizabeth or Miss? Damn straight, dude. Jane's like in front of the fireplace right now, and like, who I forgot, Mr. Bennett. No, Mrs. It's like Mr. Bingley's seated next to her, and they're talking. Well, like Elizabeth's in the fucking corner watching this shit go down, and it's very funny. No one made any He replied. She then yawned again, threw aside her book, and cast her eyes around the room in quest of some amusement. When hearing her rather attention of balls, Miss Bennet, yeah, she turned suddenly towards him and said, "By the by, Charles, are you really serious in meditating a dance in Netherfield at Netherfield? I would advise you, before you determine on it, to consult the wishes of the present party. I much mistake if there are not some among us to whom a ball would rather a punishment than a pleasure." "If you mean Darcy," cried her brother, "he may go to bed if he wishes before it begins. But as for the ball, it is quite a settled thing, and as soon as Nicholas has made white soup enough, I shall send round my cards. I shall like the balls infinitely better," he replied, "if they would carry on it a different matter. But there is something insufferable tedious, uh, ten, tedious. Yes, I could the D and I went fucked me. Tedious in the usual process of such a meeting. It would surely be much more rational if conversation instead of dancing made the order of the day. Much more rational, my dear Caroline. I dare say, but it would not be near so much like a ball." Miss Bingley made no answer, and soon afterwards got up and walked about the room. Her figure was elegant, and she walked well, but Darcy, at whom it was all aimed for, was still inflexibly studious. In the desperation of her feelings, she revolved on one more effort more, and turned to Elizabeth, said, "Miss, yeah, it's Miss Bingley being the Miss Miss, what the fuck is this? Miss Eliza Bennet, let me persuade you to follow my example and take a turn about the room. I assure you it's very refreshing after sitting so long in one attitude." Elizabeth was surprised but agreed to it immediately. Miss Bingley succeeded no less in the real object of her civility. Mr. Darcy looked up. He was as much a weight to the nobility of attention in the quarter of as Elizabeth herself could be, and unconsciously closed his book. He was directly invited to join their party, but he declined, observing that he could imagine by two motives of their cushioning to walk up and down the room together, either of which motives he joined his joining would then them would interfere. What could he mean? She was dying to know what could be his meaning, and asked Elizabeth whether she could at all understand him. "Not at all," was her answer, "but depend on it, he means to be severe on us, and our surest way of disappointing him will be nothing to be asked about." What? Well, hold up. I didn't fucking read that right. Wait, would be to ask nothing about it. Okay, for Christ. Miss Bingley, however, was incapable of disappointing Mr. Darcy in anything, and preserved, therefore, in acquiring an explanation of his two motives. "I have not the smallest objective to speaking them," he said as soon as she allowed him to speak. "You either curse this method of passing the evening because you are in each other's confidence and have secret affairs to discuss, or because you are conscious that your figures appear to be the greatest advantage in walking. If the first, I should be completely in your way, and if the second, oh jeez, I can admire you much better as I sit by the fire." I hate this. uh, I fucking look at these motherfuckers, dude. Mr. Darcy, immediately. "You guys are walking around, but if you guys are gonna keep walking around just for my amusement, walk by the fire." Walk by the fire as I sit next to it. Fucking, what a fucking big bitch. Anyway, no, I'm not yet. See ya soon. "Oh, shocking!" cried Miss Bingley. "I never heard anything so admirable. How shall we punish him for such a speech? Nothing so easy if you have to be inclination, Elizabeth. We can all plague and punish one another, tease and laugh at him. Intimate as you are, you must know how it is to be done. But upon my honor, I do not. I do assure you that my intimacy has not yet taught me that. He's calmlessness of temper and presence of mind. No, no. I feel he may defy us there. And as to laugh, we will not expose ourselves if we please by attempting to laugh without a subject. Mr. Darcy began Mr. Darcy may hug himself. Mr. Darcy is not to be laughed at. That is an uncommon advantage and an uncommon. I hope that it will continue. Before it to be a great loss to me to have such an acquaintance, I dearly love a laugh. Miss Bingley said he has given me credit for more than I can for more than can be. The wisest and best of men, nay, the wisest and best of their actions, may be rendered ridiculous by a person whose first objective in life is a joke. Certainly, replied Elizabeth. There are such people, and but I hope I am not one of them. I hope I never ridiculed what is wise or good. Follies and nonsense, whims and inconsistent, inconsistencies do divert me. I own and I laugh at them whatever I can, but these, I suppose, are precise what you are without. Perhaps this is not possible for anyone, but it has been the study of my life to avoid these weaknesses, which often expose a strong understanding to ridicule. Such a vacancy in pride. Yes, vacancy is a weakness indeed, but pride, where there is a real superiority of mind, pride will always be good under good regulation. Elizabeth turned away to hide a smile. Your explanation examination of Mr. Darcy is over, I presume, said Miss Bingley. I pray, what is the result? I am perfectly confident by by it that Mr. Darcy has no defect. He owns it himself without disguise. No, said Darcy. I have I have made no such pretense. I have faults enough, but they are not, I hope, of understanding. My temper I dare not vouch for. I decide to believe too yielding, certainly too little for the inconvenience of the world. I cannot forget the follies and vices of others so soon as I saw it, nor their offences against myself. My feelings are not with puffed about with every attempt to move them. My temper would perhaps be called resentful. My good opinion, once lost, is lost forever. That is a failing indeed, cried Elizabeth. Implication and resentment is a shade of in the character. But you have chosen your fault well. I cannot laugh at that. You are safe from me. What is it? What is it? Fucking hate them. Yeah, I guess. There is, I believe, in every disposition a tendency to some particularly evil, a natural defect which not even the best education can overcome. And your defect is the proposition to hate everybody, and and yours, he replied with a smile, is willful to misunderstand them. Do let us have a little music, cried Miss Bingley, tired of the conversation which she had no share. Louisiana, you do not mind my walking Mr. Hertz. Her sister had paid not the smallest objection, and the pianoforte was open. And Darcy, after a few moments' recollection, was not sorry for it. He began to feel the danger of paying Elizabeth too much attention. I'm looking at this girl too much. I have to leave. I'm getting too caught up in these feelings. We're about chapter 12 's tiny. Yeah, I'm making arroz. I'm making rice. Ew. Going. I haven't been checking. Okay. Chapter 12. In consequence of an agreement between the sisters, Elizabeth wrote the next morning to their mother to beg that the carriage might be sent for them in the course of the day. But Miss Bennet, who had calculated on her daughter's remaining at Netherfield till the following Tuesday, which would exactly finish Jane's week, could not bring herself to receive them with pleasure before. Her answer, therefore, was not propitious, at least not to Elizabeth's wishes, for she was impatient to get home. Miss Bennet sent them word that they could not possibly have the carriage before Tuesday. And in a postscript it was added that if Mr. Bingley and his sister pressed them to stay longer, she could spare them very well. Against staying longer, however, Elizabeth was positively resolved. Nor did she much expect it to be asked, and fearful of the contrary as being considered as intruding themselves needlessly long, she urged Jane to borrow Mr. Bingley's carriage immediately, and at length it was settled that their original design of leaving Netherfield that morning should be mentioned, and the request made. The communication excited many professions of concern, and enough was said of wishing them to stay at least till the following day to work on Jane. Until the morrow, their going was deferred. Miss Bingley was then sorry that she had proposed the delay of her for her jealousy and dislike of one sister much exceeded her affection for the dude. Miss Bingley's friend with Jane. She hates Elizabeth. Sorry, she likes her. It's fucking weird. I didn't expect this. This level of drama. They're not girl bossing together. They were like looking at Mr. Darcy and just like, should we make fun of him? And from Mr. Darcy and like they did. And they but like here's the thing. Mr. Darcy felt a little bit more in love with Elizabeth, and Elizabeth was just like, fuck, he's fun to tease. Wow, go mix my onions. They're not gonna get together. I know. Never gonna get together, and Darcy's gonna go be with, and that's gonna be like a fucking like they could have been. I would love that. I would actually love that if that happened. Like he both like dead ass. He's not gonna be with her. He wasn't with her in. I know he was with her in the movies. At the end, it's like despite everything and despite you being an asshole, me being prejudiced, I'll be with you. And they kiss underneath the gazebo. They did. I saw the movie, dude. I wish I had it. Fucking weird. They weren't supposed to be together. Cool. It was an attraction that like shouldn't have been because of his standing and hers, as well as the fact that it's like the Leia and Han Solo shit. Like I fucking hate you, but goddamn. Yeah, pretty much that. Let me continue. The master of the house heard with real sorrow that they were to go soon, and repeatedly tried to persuade Miss Bennet that it would not be safe for her, that she was not enough recovered. But Jane was firm, where she felt herself to be right. To Mr. Darcy, it was a welcome intelligence. Elizabeth had been at Netherfield long enough. She attracted him more than he liked, and Miss Bingley was uncivil to her, more teasing than usual to himself. He wisely resolved to be particularly careful that no sign of admiration should now escape him. Nothing that I could elevate her with the hope of influencing his philosophy. Sensible that if such an idea had been suggested, his behaviour during the last day must have material weight in confirming or crushing it. Steady to his purpose, he scarcely spoke 10 words to her through the whole of Saturday. And though they were at one time left by themselves for half an hour, he adhered most conscientiously to his book, and would not even look at her. On Sunday, after morning service, they separated, so agreeable to almost all took place. Miss Bingsley's civility to Elizabeth increased at least very rapidly, as well as her affection for Jane, and when they parted, after assuring the latter of the pleasure that it would always give her to see her either at Longbourn or Netherfield, and embracing her most tenderly, she even shook hands with the former. Elizabeth took leave of the whole party in the liveliest of spirits. They were not welcomed home very cordially by their mother, Mrs. Bennet, wondering at their coming, and thought them very wrong to give so much trouble. It was sure Jane would have caught cold again, but their father, though very laconic, and in his expression of pleasure, was really glad to see them. He had felt their importance in the family circle. The evening conversation, when they all assembled, had lost so much of its and animation in almost all of its senses by the absence of Jane and Elizabeth. They found Mary, as usual, deep in the study of thoroughbrass and human nature, and had some extracts to admire and some new observations of threadbare morality to listen to. As Catherine and Lydia, they had information for them of a different sort. Much had been done and much had been said in the regiment since the presidenting Wednesday. Several of the officers had dined lately with their uncle. A private had been flogged, and it had actually been hinted that Colonel Forster's was going to be married. Chapter 13. 13's long. I'm sorry. But 13's like really long. This will be the last. Or do you want to stop here? Oh, okay. Oh, appreciate it. I mean, I guess. Uh, I hope, my dear, said Mr. Bennet to his wife as they were at the breakfast they're at breakfast the next morning, that you have ordered a good dinner today, because I have reason to expect an audition in our family party. What do you mean, my dear? I know of nobody that is coming, I'm sure, unless Charlotte Lucas should happen to call in, and I hope my dinners are good enough for her. I do not believe she often sees such a home. The person who I speak of is a gentleman and a stranger. Mrs. Bennet's eyes sparkled. A gentleman and a stranger. It is Mr. Bingley, I'm sure. Why, Jane, you never dropped the word of this, you sly thing. Well, I am sure shall be extremely glad to see Mr. Bingley, but, good Lord, how unlucky! There is not a bit of fish to be got today. To, today. Today? Today. Today. Lydia, my love, ring the bell. I must speak to Hill at this moment. It is not Mr. Bingley, said her husband. It is a person who I never saw in the entire course of my life. This roused a general astonishment, and he had the pleasure of being eagerly questioned by his wife and $5 at once. After amusing himself some time with the curiosity, he thus explained: "About a month ago, I received this letter." Onions, then toppings. Where the fuck am I? About a month ago, I received this letter. About a fortnight ago, I answered it. And for I thought it was a case of delicacy and required early attention. It is my cousin, Mr. Collins, who, when I am dead, may turn you all out of this house as soon as he pleases. Oh my dear! Oh my dear! Oh my dear! Yum, 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 cried his wife. I cannot bear to hear that mentioned. Pray do not talk of that. This odious man. I do think it is the hardest thing in the world that your estate should be entitled away from your own children. I'm sure if it had been you, I should have tried long ago to do something to do something or other about it. Jane Elizabeth attempted to explain to her the nature of an entail. They had often attempted it before, but it was a subject which Mrs. Bennet was beyond the reach of reasoning. She continued to rail bitterly against the cruelty of sending away an estate away from a family of $5 in favor of a man who nobody cared anything about. It certainly is an inquisitive affair. After said Mr. Bennet, and nothing can be done. Nothing can clear Mr. Collins from the guilty of inheriting Longbourn. If you will listen to his letter, you may perhaps be a little softened by his manner of expressing himself. Uh, no, that I am sure I shall not. I think it is very impertinent of him to write to you all, and very hypocritical. I hate such false friends. Who would not keep on why could not he keep on quarreling with you as his father did before him? Why indeed? He does seem to have such a fertile scriptures on that head, as you will hear. Hunsford, dear Hunsford, near Wisterham, Kent, 15th October. Dear sir, the disagreement subsisting between yourself and my late father, my late honored father, always gave me such uneasiness, and since I have the misfortune to lose him, I have frequently wished to heal the branch. For some time, I kept back by my own doubts, fearing lest it may seem disrespectful to his memory for me to be on good terms with any one of whom it has pleased him to be at Paradise. There, Mrs. Bennet. My mind, however, is now made up on a subject, for having received an ordination at Easter, I have been so fortunate to be so distinguished by a patron of the right honourable Lady Catherine, Lady Catherine Bourg, widow of Sir Louis de Bourgh, whose beauty and benefice has preferred me to the valuable rectory of this parsh, parse, parsh, parish, parish, parsh, parsh, where it shall be my earnest endeavour to demean myself with grateful respect towards her ladyship. and be ever ready to perform those rites and ceremonies which, by institutes of the Church of England, as a clerkman, moreover, I feel it my duty to promote and establish the blessing of peace in all families within the reach of my influence. And on these grounds, I flatter myself that my present overturns of goodwill are highly commendable. But the circumstance of my being next of the entitlement estates will be kindly overlooked on your side, and do not lead you to reject the offered olive branch. I cannot be otherwise than concerned at the means of injuring your amiable daughters, and beg leave to apologize for it, as well as to assure you my readiness to make them ever possible amends. But of this hereafter, if you shall have no objection to receive me into your house, I propose myself the satisfaction of waiting for you and your family Monday, November 18th by 4 o'clock, and shall probably trespass on your hospitality till the Saturday's night. Sneep, snot, sniff, night, night, night. Saturday's night. Woo. Falling, which can I do without any convenience, as Lady Catherine is far from objecting to my occasional absence on a Sunday, providing that some other clergyman is engaged to do the duty of the day. I remain, dear sir, with respectful confidence of your lady and daughters, and your will wisher and friend William Collins. At 4 o'clock, therefore, we may accept this peacemaking gentleman, said Mr. Bennet, as he folded up the letter. He seems to be most conscious and polite young man. Upon my word, I doubt, will, I doubt not will provide a valuable acquaintance, especially if Lady Catherine should be so indulgent as to let him come to us again. Tomato sauce. Have you never made it before? Okay. Uh, that's fine. Oh yeah, it's fine. There is some sense in what he says about the girls, however. If he is indisposed to make any amends, I shall not be the person to discourage him. But though it is difficult, said Jane, to guess in what way he make mean to make us an atonement he thinks ours is our due, the wish is certainly to his credit. Elizabeth was chiefly struck with his extraordinary difference for Lady Catherine, his kind intention of christening, marrying, and burying his partitioners wherever it were required. He must be an oddity, I think, said she. I cannot make him out. There is some very pomptuous in his style. What can he mean? What can he mean by apologizing for being next in tail? You cannot suppose he would help it if he could. Can he be a sensible man, sir? No, my dear, I think not. I have great hopes of finding him quite the reverse. There is a mixture of severity and self-importance, and as which promises well. I am impatient. In point of composition, said Mary, this letter does not seem defective. The idea of a olive branch perhaps is not wholly new, yet I think it is well expressed. To Catherine and Lydia, neither the letter nor its writer were in any degree interesting. It's come next as possible that their cousin would come in scarlet coat, and now it is some weeks they've received pleasure from man and other. As for their mother, Mr. Collins' letter has done away much of her ill will, and she was preparing to see with a degree of composure and was astonished husband and daughters. Mr. Collins was punctual to his time and was received with great politeness by the whole family. Mr. Bennet indeed said little, but the ladies were ready enough to talk. Mr. Collins ne- seemed neither in need of encouragement nor inclined to be silent himself. He was a tall, heavy-looking man of 5 and 20. His air was grady and stately, and his manners were formal. He had not been long seated before he complimented Mrs. Bennet on having such a fine family of daughters, said he had heard much of their beauty But in that instance, fame had such fallen short of the truth. And as the heat, ow, ow, after there, no, a little bit more there. Okay, yeah, okay. Where the fuck am I? You come over here, and I always distracted. Fallen fame, but the fame had fallen short of the truth, and added that he did not doubt her seeing them and all do well dispose of in marriage. This gallantry was not much to the taste of some of his hearers, but Miss Bennet, who quarrelled with no compliments, answered most readily, "You're very kind, sir, I'm sure, but I wish with all my heart to be proved so, for nothing else. For else they will be destitute enough. Things are settled so oddly. You allude perhaps to the entailment to entail of this. Ah, sir, I do. It is a grievous affair to my poor girls, you must confess. Not that I find it, not that I mean to find fault in fault with you for such things. I know are all chances in this world. There's no knowing how states will go once they come to be entailed. I'm very sensible man of the hardships, my fair cousins, and could much say on the subject, but I'm cautious appearing forward and print that I admire these young girls. I have come prepared to admire them. At present, I will say no more. Perhaps we will are better acquainted. He was interrupted by a summons. The girls smiled on each other. They were not the only objections of Mr. Collins' admiration. The hall of the dining room, and all of its furniture were examined and praised. His comforts of everything would have touched Miss Bennet's heart, but for the mortifying stipulation of his viewing it all as his own future property. The dinner, too, in its turn, was highly memorable. He begged to know which of his cousins had such learning. But here he was, set right by Mrs. Bennet, who assured him with good aspirations they were very well able to keep a good cook, and her daughters had nothing. He begged pardon for having displeased her, and his soft, softened tone declared herself not at all offended. But he continued to apologize for about a quarter of an hour. Yo, I'm fucking sorry. I called you. I'm sorry. I thought your girls cooked dinner. You're fine. No, let me apologize for 40 minutes. I'm sorry. I assumed that your daughters cooked this delicious meal. No, it was Mr. Collins. He like apologized because he thought the fucking chef they hired. Oh, mushroom. How dare you? How dare you? But it's too small. Oh no. It's gonna. You're right. You have to put in another one. Anyway, uh, anyway, I'm done. Chapter 14. That'll be it for today. Because you're like literally 1 foot in in the kitchen making food for yourself. Uh, oh, okay. Uh, how do I end stream? Okay. Bye bye, motherfuckers.